The NYPD always working hard. They're working hard on this one. And the NYPD suffering a record number of injuries this year. Worth noting that 4,600 injuries from violent suspects reported throughout 2024. That's up 13% from just last year, 32% from 2020, and a stunning 60% from 2021. We are grateful today to have Paul Mauro with us, retired NYPD inspector and Fox News contributor. And of course, I bet you have some ideas about why this sadly is occurring to our officers at the NYPD.
Yeah, I would say the common denominator here is going to be a shortage of officers to respond, right? Generally, cops get hurt two ways. You're either tussling with somebody who doesn't want to go, or car accidents, which is very underappreciated. One of the things I used to do when I was working in a precinct as an executive was to just go around and make sure that these guys were wearing their seatbelts, because while it was annoying and it felt very sort of paternal, the bottom line is more cops get hurt and in some cases lose their lives from car accidents than anything else because they're rushing to a scene. Well, when you're short cops, you have people covering more ground. They're going job to job. They got to get there. Some of them are real emergency jobs. As a result, they get into the accidents and they get injured. Fortunately, there hasn't been that many fatalities, but that's the common denominator that I would argue is that we just don't have enough bodies due to recruitment and retention issues. And that comes out of just, it's not the money. The gig is pretty good these days. It's not that. It really comes down to morale. Nobody takes the job for money.
I'm wondering with the morale part, staggering 60% of felony cases in Manhattan by DA Alvin Bragg were downgraded to lesser charges. How much of an effect does that have on the morale, which then can affect safety?
You always deal with plea bargains, essentially, is what it is, which is they plea it down, the guy takes a lesser charge, and that's how it goes. Then that's how the system keeps operating, because if you charged everything as arrested, the entire system would grind to a halt. There's just too many. The problem is this. In the current system, when you plea these things down and you say, okay, you're in here for a felony robbery, we're going to knock it down to simple assault. Under the bail reform, that means you get right out. So these guys are out in many instances before the paperwork is dry. The cop is still inside processing. The guy walks out the door, and it happens at the precinct level. So it's entirely visible to the police officer who made the arrest. As a result, and I always use this analogy, how would most of us feel, whatever walk of life you work in, if anything you did every day before your shift is over is just completely undone, and then at the same time, the legacy media tells you you're the ones who are the bad guys.
Yeah. There's some polling, recent polling on New York Siena poll. What do you think the most important problem facing New York City? Not particularly shocking here. Crime right at the top of the list. Yeah. And one of the challenges, I think it's so frustrating, the rank and file police that are working so hard to serve and they're facing things like these assaults, but yet there's so much strife in the NYPD right now with Eric Adams facing charges. He's lost a number of his top leaders as well to some of the chaos and corruption issues. And, you know, how does that affect the ranks?
Well, I have to tell you, Molly, this is the biggest corruption scandal that I've seen in New York City in my life. Wow. Big statement, I know that. Right now, the media hasn't entirely twigged to it yet. They're going to get there. But in my lifetime, we've had police scandals. They were always the lower ranks, and it was just really venal stuff. I'm not countenancing it, but it was like narcotic stuff, et cetera. They'd arrest a bunch of cops, maybe sergeants, et cetera. The police commissioner had to resign and turn in his phones. The DOJ took his phones. There are so many people in our current government. Everybody seems to be either under investigation or under indictment. The mayor, who's apparently going to get a superseding indictment, according to DOJ, he's got now a special officer in D.C. appointed to handle the classified information. We don't know what that's about. His closest aide just got arrested for bribery by the Manhattan DA's office. Her son got money for a Porsche. It goes on and on. I often don't do this, but I'm going to point people to my Substack, okay? opsdesk.org. If you go to that, you can go to that. And the reason I do that is because we just did, coincidentally, a roundup of all the cases, and you see it all in one place, you realize this city is in trouble. The issue is Adams, according to what we see, is the best we're going to get.
Predicting some wild headlines in 2025, that is for sure. Paul Mauro, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.